Rockslide, it's always a heated debate about which pistol you should carry in the woods for bear defense. You can say predator defense, two-legged defense, pretty much any defense, but it always revolves around big bears is what it goes back to. So early on, I'd had a few posts on Rockslide about bears, and Phil Shoemaker was brought into it. And I just said, I'm only going to carry what I would actually carry because I'm not fucking carrying around a heavy 10 millimeter. I'm just not going to do it. So I found the smallest, most compact 9 millimeter that carried 15 rounds, which is a SIG 365. So that's what I've been carrying. So it brought up last year at the shooting school, it brought up a good debate with Form. And he had a totally different, not a different reason why I carry it, but a different reason than most people argue about why you need to carry a 10 millimeter or a 45 or whatever. So Form, in the best way Form knows how to stir up shit, tell us what you use and what's your philosophy on it.
So let's keep it reality based.
Let's start with this. So we started at the school. I said basically we were talking about what we took in the woods to protect ourselves from the big bad bear, and everybody's throwing around calibers, cartridges, and you said, well, I'm just going to carry a 22 with a high capacity magazine. And everybody's like, what the fuck? So kind of take us into that thought process, I guess, to get it started.
It's a 22 mag with specific bullets, a PMR 30. Okay. So let's just fact base. So like we were just asking Luke, and Rhett, is there a single rifle round that you can fire into a bear, into its body, and stop that bear physiologically? So there's two main types. There's two ways to stop anything living. Psychological, which is it just chooses to stop, right? I've been shot. I don't want to be shot again. The physiological means you have physically removed something that creature needs to continue its function. Okay. So physiological stops are how we kill deer and elk and everything else. They blood pressure drops, oxygen drops, they suffocate, they whatever, right? They bleed out. Those are physiological, but they take time. That's why they run away sometimes, or they stand there for 30 seconds till they fall over. So that's the question. Is there any cartridge that can be shot that drops a bear with a body shot? Like drops it, and it's going to happen. No. I mean, this is the cool thing about the modern age, right? It used to be this big myth and mythicism about shooting bears or any animal.
Is mythicism a word?
Mythicism? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And not the word we were talking about earlier. But there used to be this big thing because nobody knew what happened. Hallmarks of humanity or humans is we can learn from others if we pay attention and think about it critically. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of videos of bear being shot online now, including charges. Guess what? When you go watch them shot with 300 or 375 rounds, they run off. They shoot them 5, 6, 7 times and they run off. Is there any pistol that creates a wound as large as a rifle?
Absolutely not. It's
not even close. Okay, so even your 500 Smith & Wesson is a joke compared to a real rifle, right? So when you see the wound channel and I know like everybody's freaking out and going, oh, Elmer Keith this, whatever. Dude, I've shot deer with I haven't shot one with 500 Smith & Wesson. I've seen him shot. I've shot him with 44 mags, 41 mags, 475 Lindball, with all of them. The Keith style full wad cutter. They penetrate and they certainly killed fine, but they just bored 1/2-inch holes through everything. There's nothing magical there. Really wasn't any different from shooting them with a 9mm or a 45 good hollow point. And people, whatever, but more than a few animals doing that. So the base answer is no. Like, bullets kill through destroying things. And there's no pistol bullet you can shoot that even does what a 5.56 in front of us does. Right? Like, both of these guns have bullets that'll penetrate 18 to 20 inches and create, almost larger than a Coke can size wound going through an animal. There's no pistol that's doing that. Okay. So then how do we stop a bear if it's bad and charging us?
Well, I know the answer you're going to say, so I'm not going to say it. So go ahead.
The only way is to disrupt the central nervous system, the upper spinal cord or the brain. That's the only way you stop it. And if you need to stop a bear, if you need to stop any creature right now, instantaneous stop, There is one answer: shoot it in the head. There's no other answer that works.
Is that where shoot him in the face came from?
Yeah. Shoot him in the face. Well, there's another piece to that is like, well, we'll come back to that maybe. So that's the only answer that I know the outcome. I can shoot something in the chest and maybe it'll do something. I don't know. But if it's charging at me and I shoot it in the chest and it takes 10 to 15, 20 seconds to pass out, I'm already being eaten. And people go, well, a bear's head or whatever, head is really small. No, it's actually not. If you measured, it's not any smaller than the heart. And it's certainly about half the size of the lungs. Like I'm looking at the bear skulls right now. Those are about as large as, maybe a little bit smaller than the lungs of those bears were, right? If you just angle the head up. So if I need the thing to stop, it is a central nervous system shot. It's a brain or an upper spinal cord. Now, then the second question is, how wide of a wound does something have to make if it goes into the brain or the upper spinal cord for it to drop? Not very, like really small, actually. 22s will do it. I mean, and do it reliably. So then the third thing is like, okay, how deep does a bullet need to penetrate to do that? And that's where everybody, when you read online, they're like, it's penetration, right? On pistol, bear guns, bear defense. The interesting thing is when you shoot a 10 millimeter hard cast into FBI grade and standard 10% organic ballistics gelatin that's calibrated, which is a very, very good correlation to tissue, including through barriers, which is a very good correlation to bone. Most 9 millimeter hard casts penetrate deeper. The wound channel isn't any wider because even though there's only a couple of hundredths inches difference in the width of the wound, right? Like the thickness of a dime, not the width. That doesn't really translate to better tissue damage, but it does affect a bullet penetration and frontal, right? Like and drag. So, I'm sure there's some exceptions, but most of your hard casts, like 10 millimeter bullets, are sub 30 inches in gel. And there might be some that are above that. Usually you see like 24 to 27 inches. 9 millimeter, like 147s can be in like the 37 to 40 inch range. There's a couple that'll do more than 40. So if penetration is your issue here, if we just look at it objectively and you don't know anything about guns, you'd be like, well, 9 millimeters better. Okay. Now the other side to that is, okay, but you got to hit them in the head. Well, if they're running at me, that's the only thing I can see anyways, right? I mean, when you see a bear running, its head kind of bobs in the center of its chest. And when it's always brown bears and grizzly bears, which are supposed to be huge, right? Okay, it's a bigger head. It's a bigger target. If you take and you split the skull, even though they're bigger, the thickness of the skull doesn't change that much. Like there's not a dramatic difference
between the wall, the bone of
the thickness of the bone to get into the brain the brain housing. It's not that much different than the black bears right there. They're not herbivores. That's the other thing that people do is like herbivores like cows, bison, you could even say elk or whatever. They have denser bones just based on their prey. Predators aren't that way. Predators are very lightly boned and heavily muscled.
And thin-skinned.
And relatively thin-skinned. So like Rhett was asking about like the hair on a bear. Bullets don't care about hair. Like that doesn't affect the bullet doing 1,000 feet per second. Maybe, because it's all loose. It's not, even if you mat it with mud, it's not like matted for 8 inches thick, right? It's just loose fur that it's going through. So we need to hit them in the central nervous system to know what we're going to get. They're facing us generally anyways, or even from the side, it's fine. There's no cartridge I can fire from a rifle or bullet that will guarantee or even remotely come close to often dropping a bear instantly to a body shot. No pistol can create the damage a rifle can, so that just goes out the window completely. It's penetration. It's hitting the brain or the upper spinal cord and then penetrating deep enough to get it. Well, when you measure a bear skull, even if you shoot it in the nose, like 10 inches and you're good. Like you're getting in the brain. If you go through the neck, 10 to 12 inches and you're good. It really starts to just look like what kind of self-defense duty pistol ammo is. 12 to 18 inches of penetration and blind to barriers. So then the last piece is like, well, hitting that target is hard. Okay, well, if you miss it, it doesn't do anything anyway, so who cares? Like people will be like, oh, well, if I shoot a 44 or a 454 Casull or 475 Limbaugh or whatever, you know, oh, if it misses the chest, it'll penetrate all the way to the rear end. Okay, that doesn't drop animals, so I don't really care, right? If it won't drop little bears and it doesn't drop deer by doing that, and it doesn't drop any bear you see in videos, it doesn't matter. You're just hoping at something at this point. So yes, you can learn to shoot well enough to shoot things in the head, that size target moving at you. That's just a skill-based thing. Basically every pistol made, every normal cartridge caliber has bullets that will do that. So then it becomes how shootable is the gun. So like for me, if I was using a standard gun, of course it's going to be 9mm for the same reasons I carry a 9mm everywhere else. Or I would suggest people carry 9mm, right? They create the same size wound channels. You can shoot them faster. You can shoot them more accurately. They're cheaper. Everything about them's better. Having said all that, weight is a thing in the backcountry, and it's an interesting thing, and it was primarily brought on by a dude I work with, a buddy. A question about it is, with what we know with rifles and 223s and 5.56s compared to everything else, why do we shoot like 9mm in pistols and not something like a FN57 or a 22 TCM? And the reason was bullets, and that's starting to change. But then the knowledge of like the bear thing, to keep it in this context, is like, I have to shoot him in the brain. Well, does a 22 do it? Well, I don't know. Never really thought about it. So let's go find out. Well, guess what? I mean, even 22 long rifles, there's some of them out there now, some loads like Federal Punch, that'll do like 16 inches straight line. But like 22 mag, legit 16 to 18 inches is pretty common, 14 to 18 inches. And when you put that in a semi-auto that can be shot well, it's like a little sewing machine. So the bullets are going deep enough, completely and totally. I don't care if they create a 22 cal hole or a 35 cal hole in the chest. Neither one of them is going to do what I want. I'm going to shoot it in the face. I'm going to shoot it in the head. The faster I can shoot, the more accurate. So I never give up the precision speed. It's just I never give up the precision. It's just speed of follow-up shots. So it penetrates deep enough, I can shoot it faster, and I can shoot it more accurate at speed. And it's lighter. You know, a PMR 30 empty or full with 30 rounds is the same weight as like a Glock 19 empty. So yeah, I mean, if you remove the emotion, the lure, and the mythicism of it, and you just look at objective reality, you would land somewhere. If you had to go and actually shoot hundreds of bears at a time that were charging you, you would land somewhere between like a good 22 mag and a 9mm. That range is where it would be.
And you could make the argument that, and I think about it for myself, if I'm getting shot in the face and your goal is to deter that animal, it's not necessarily you have to kill it. But if I get shot in a few steps, I want to kill you, and you shoot me and start shooting me in the face, you may not kill me, but you may make me change my mind about coming after you.
So it's an interesting thing, right? Because I'll say this and then people freak out. So I've only killed a few bears. One really small. Screw you, Ryan.
It was a good target, though.
It was a good target, man. You want to see some marksmanship. But I've been around quite a few of them. And I think you've seen the video of the grizzly with the girlfriend and that interesting episode. Not to be crude, bears are pussies. Like, nothing likes getting hit in the face. But from what I've seen, like, I've seen bears charging. You see it on videos. Bears will be charging and they'll get a stick, smack them in the face, and like just stop immediately. Like a bee hits them in the face. Nothing likes being hit in the face, but predators seem especially like sensitive to it. So no, I wouldn't say like, yeah, use that as like a hope. Relatively limited experience, sure. Things that get shot in the face stop doing what they're doing. And it doesn't really matter what it is. So yes. And that's the thing, you got to do it. And people, the other thing I've seen is you don't practice with these big bear guns, even 10 mils. I think how to say this. In the pistol world, there's ways to measure absolute skill. USPSA, IPSC. I do extremely well in those. Like as a pistol shooter, that's not a thing. Like I can shoot a 10 mil extremely well. I do not shoot a 10 mil. Nobody can shoot a 10 millimeter with full power loads like they can shoot a 9 mil. That's why power factor's a thing. When you start getting into the big guns, I've said it, and it's true. Like I know there are people out there, but somebody that's not a dedicated, legit top-end competitor, like a Jerry Mikulek or that type of level, I've yet to see anybody shoot a 44 mag or bigger competently. They'll shoot one round, single action, they'll hit, but I'm talking draw and shoot. No, it's a disaster. They miss, they don't hit anything, the gun damn near hits them in the face. Like it's a joke. So
little bullets, lots of stingers in the bullet in that pistol. What does the regiment look like to be competent, or how would you go about becoming? If I came to you and said, "Foreman, I want to be competent because I am going into big bear country all fall," what would that regiment look like with you?
I mean, if you wanted to, if you wanted to know the outcome, if you got charged as best as it could be, I mean, for most, I would suggest go to a legit pistol course from somebody that knows how to shoot, which means, you know, we could name a couple of people, but basically, I would look for somebody that is a legit high-end competitor, like a USPSA Grandmaster, and they've done something in the tactical world, right? So Esoteric LLC would probably be where I would start, but there's a few of them. There's only a few. Most of them are garbage. And the reason being is they understand high-level pistol shooting, but they also understand applying that to the real world. And then go shoot USPSA matches once or twice a month and get as good as you can. Like, those two things are about as unless you get real deep into the pistol world, that's about your 85% solution.
Because you know half the fuckers listen to this, they're going to go do that. They're going to go buy the pistol. They're going to go hunting in bear country, and they're never going to practice at all. But they're going to be the same guys that go online and tell you what fucking pistol you need to take to the woods.
Yeah, so it's always an interesting thing, right? So I'm around everybody from people that don't shoot ever, to you that shoot a few hundred rounds a year, to like me and the guys I shoot with that are like 30 to 50,000 rounds of pistol rounds a year, right? That are trying to win national matches, and everything in between. And it's an interesting thing because people like this will probably be the one that gets everybody just fired up for silly reasons because they're not actually listening to what is being stated on a factual basis. But it's just like the 5.56 for deer and elk with good bullets, right? 223 with 77 grain TMKs or a like bullet. And people are like, well, that works for you because you're skilled. Well, no, the actual empirical data says it works better for everybody, including the less skilled. They shoot them better, therefore they kill more often. It's the same thing with pistols. If I had to teach, and I know Tanya shoots or whatever, but if I had to teach Tanya to shoot a handgun and this afternoon she was going to be charged by a bear, I'd hand her that PMR 30. I would shoot 300 to 400 rounds today with it, and she'd go smoke that bear. More than likely, she'll have a better outcome in all probability than if you gave her a 10 millimeter. That would do nothing for her. And that's not a thing on her. That would be the same for you. That would be the same for Jake. That would be the same for everybody.
Right. Well, and to back that up, kind of the bro science of it is I have a 10 millimeter, I have three 9 millimeters, and I have a suppressed M&P 22 pistol.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, it's just like the 223s in the school. Everybody wants to shoot the 223 suppressed pistol at the end.
The 22.
And in the 22 pistol, and they by far shoot it the best.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Everybody to a person, like 11 people now, they all shoot that suppressed 22.
So it's so to put some in the pistol shooting world, it takes like an on-demand to know that somebody's going to draw and hit a 6 to 8 inch target at 7 yards under stress. So in other words, they can hit this on demand with a 9 millimeter. It takes a certain amount of rounds and a very structured program, and about 3.5 days with some really stressful stuff happening in that 3.5 days with a 9 mil. To know on demand, and that's a pretty well established. I mean, you're not going to see open data on that, but it's whatever. That's about what it takes. I think most people would agree with that. With a 22 long rifle, it takes a day. With a 22 mag, it takes half the time, a day and a half to 2 days. Like, people underestimate, and that's not like wimps or girls or children, that's everybody. People underestimate how much your brain does not like a big explosion in front of your face and how much we recoil brace, which is commonly known as anticipating or flinching with a pistol. Like, it's just funny how much more skilled people are with like 22. The problem with rimfires, and I'm not telling you should go out and buy anything. I'm just saying the problem with rimfires historically for anything important is you'd often get misfires because that priming compound didn't get put around the edge of the case. There's ammo now that whether they're visually inspecting it or they check it with a laser, that every single piece of brass in Rimfire is being checked to make sure the priming compound is completely around it. In other words, they've got enough QC and QA, like it's turning out to be as reliable as any centerfire. You know, Spear Gold Dot 22 mag goes bang. Like it just goes bang. It's not a, I don't know, I've shot 10,000 rounds of it. I haven't had one not go bang yet. And others like it. That's not the only one, but high quality rimfire will work now. Now the question is whether it does it. No, I'm not saying buy a 22 long rifle and go shoot bear in the face, though I imagine it will work.
So most people will probably veer towards a 9mm. What bullet?
You know, you're going to hear a lot. Again, it's going to be the, you know, the Honey Badger from Black Hills, or, you know, some 147 grain hard cast, and absolutely those are fine. The thing is, it doesn't require 40 inches of penetration. That's the other thing. Will it do 12 to 18 inches? I like 16 to 18. Yes, it's fine. When I go into bear woods, dude, I've got whatever I carried on me. So usually, like, if I was just buying a round for a normal, like, Glock 19, so, you know, 4-inch barrel or larger pistol, Spear Gold Dot 147 grain or 147 grain Spear Gold Dot G2, Federal HST, just normal, whatever passes the FBI barrier test is just fine. Like, this is me, right? It's going to go 12 to 18 inches. You can pick some that are on the heavier end. You can pick some on the lighter end. The nice thing about that ammo is they're tested through barriers and angled glass, which is way harder on bullets and deflection than any skull, like than anything, right? I mean, it's like the worst barrier to go through. So if it goes through like the FBI glass test, it's going through a skull. Like you're going to be okay. But yeah, certainly you can do the you know, the all copper, you know, weirdo bullets. Some of them are out there, but I probably wouldn't shoot regular Full Metal Jacket because they tend to skip off of angles like skulls and stuff. But yeah, I just use whatever I'm carrying, which is often just Federal HST or Spear Gold Dot. And the heavier grain, that's the thing with 9mm. People think velocity is better. The big deal with pistol ammo is it is designed around a velocity range. Taking a 124 grain Spear Gold Dot that's designed to work at 1,000 feet per second, pushing it from a carbine at 1,400 feet per second doesn't make it perform better. It's worse, because that bullet is either it doesn't penetrate deep enough, so you lose a lot of penetration, or it can start fragmenting off, and it's not like rifle fragmentation, right? Bullets are designed to work in a certain velocity range, especially pistol bullets, and they're engineered heavily to do that. Keep them in that velocity range.
That's interesting. I've never really heard that described like that.
Oh yeah, like if you take a Spear Gold, you take any of the pistol bullets that work at their velocity and you push them 300 to 400 feet per second faster, performance goes down. It does not go up. And I mean in every measurable metric. Now, some bullets are designed to be faster, right? So Spear makes, I think it's 124 or 125 grain Gold Dot for the 357 SIG, which is like a 9mm plus P plus. That bullet does phenomenally at very close range, like sub 10 yards. But it requires that they had to make the bullet so tough to resist expansion at those velocities that as soon as you get like 20, 25 yards, it just acts like a Full Metal Jacket. It's not even opening up anymore. So in pistols and 9mm, if you're talking hollow points, the good ones, Spear Gold Dot, Remington Golden Saber Bonded, Federal HST, Federal HydroShock Deep, not HydroShock, Deep, the new ones, etc. The heavier, the better generally. Like 135 to 147 grain 9mm. They penetrate deeper and they perform more consistently across the board.
Those HydroShocks, I thought those were for mass expansion.
Regular HydroShocks either overexpand or fail to expand through like clothing or hide or hair. They're very variable. It's an old bullet technology. I wouldn't use a HydroShock. Federal screwed up. They came out with a new one called HydroShock Deep. And it is, it's more robust in its performance, but it also penetrates deeper, hence the deep. That's a good bullet. That's a fine bullet.
That was my nickname in high school.
What, HydroShock? A little underwhelming.
Deep.
Well, you know, fisting does a lot.
Didn't expand.
Sorry.
Oh, hope your mom doesn't listen to this.
Do you ever train to have a target moving towards you?
Sure.
Good question.
Yeah. All the time. I mean, yes, so I'm trying to keep it. It's hard to have this conversation like not in person to show it. And without a lot of caveats and a deep discussion, but this is in general. It's just like with rifles. Either you can shoot or you can't. So it's something that people freak out when somebody can shoot a handgun competently. So like there are USPSA matches, that's action pistol, all over the country in every town. Go to a USPSA match, shoot a classifier. It's a standardized thing in the match. If you don't score at a B level, you can't shoot a pistol well. Guess what? Almost no one alive, unless they shoot competition, is a B class shooter. That is a good in the competition world, that's at the bottom. But in the actual carrying world, that's really high. Like all the super cool guys running around with guns are like at best C class shooters unless they shoot competition, which is below B class. So
I'm a Z.
Yeah, that's called an unclassified. You get your hit factor is so low it's negative. No, so like yeah. The competition, like if you want to see where you're at, that's just a really good thing. You can shoot whatever gun you want, follow the rules. It's speed and accuracy. That's what it is.
So you're saying like all the YouTube videos, they make a big old cardboard bear silhouette and that sucker's coming at them. That's all hyperbole.
So how does that change anything? The bear's not shooting laterally. So one moving from left to right or right to left. Okay, we got to move the gun a little bit. If something comes straight at me, I don't have to move the gun. So there's, from a difficulty perspective of the shot, there's nothing different about a target moving straight at you than a target just standing still. If it's angling to you, it's not even that much. It's like when it's full on left to right that it gets a little bit harder. And to go back to the competition thing, and like, either you can shoot the target in a certain time and hit it, or you can't. It moving or not doesn't change that. So like, if the standard drill is if you can draw your pistol from like hands relaxed or rifle on it, draw your pistol and an 8-inch plate at 7 yards and put 6 rounds on it consistently, hit it with 6 rounds in like sub 4 seconds. Right? We're looking for our first shot in like 1.5 to 1.8 second range. And then all 6 are hits on that 8-inch target. It's called a build drill. You got a pretty good idea. Now to put perspective, like competent is like I can do it on demand with no misses ever in sub 4 seconds at 7 yards from the gun I carry, from that. When you look at like top end competition shooters, you're talking like 1.6, 1.7 seconds. Their first shot is 0.7 to 0.8 seconds. There's a huge difference there, right? And then when you start talking, like if you can do that on demand, dude, the target moving at you doesn't change that. Your first shot is fast enough that either you can get the gun out and get a shot, or you can't, and it doesn't matter what you're shooting.
And go to the layman non-pistol shooter that I am. When we did this drill similar to that 2 or 3 years ago, I remember in my mind, you know, I don't shoot pistol very often. I need to. You think you're better than you are. And Form started going through these drills. I was a fucking disaster. And I'm still a disaster, but I didn't realize, and I always carry concealed. And I'm like, this will be no problem. And he's like, you got to get this shot off. Like your goal is to be under 2 seconds before you break your first shot. Cause you knew I suck. But I was like 3, I'd catch my fat roll on the way out. Couldn't get I was a fucking disaster. And there's lots of me running around out there in the bare woods thinking they can pull and shoot.
Objectively, you're better than almost, if you don't shoot competition or train with a pistol, like legitimately train with one regularly, you're better than 90% of people.
Well, then you add a stress of an actual bear coming at you, and you're going to fail if you don't practice.
It's like anything. Only in the gun world is it, I don't have to practice, yet I'm a world-class warrior. Oh, it's only in the gun world. In every other aspect, if I say, hey, you're going to take this car and you're going to race and you're going to do the Le Mans, and if you lose, you're going to die, nobody would be like, yeah, man, I'm good at it. I mean, other than the video you showed me last night, like I could be good at UFC. Nobody would do that. They're like, oh my God, where is the nearest race car driver with coaches? I've got to learn to do this professionally correctly, right? I've got to compete to be good at this. But only with guns is it like, no, man, I'm a dude, therefore I can shoot.
So if you could shoot just as good, let's say you can draw and you can fire that 22 Magnum in the same time frame, same number of rounds on target, and you got a 10 millimeter, and you can draw that the same amount of time, and you can put 15 rounds on that target, why would you choose the 22 mag over the 40 or the 10?
Well, you're given a hypothetical that doesn't exist, right? So let's use the Glock 10 millimeter with like full on good quote unquote bear loads. My on-demand, let's use a bill drill. So my on-demand time with that gun is somewhere about 3.6 to 3.7 seconds for a clean bill drill. The first shot doesn't change, except, and this isn't an excuse, is that my grip has to be much better with a 10 mil to hold on correctly, right, for the follow-up shots. So 6 shots from a draw, we're not, it's not like a Wild West where your hands is like right on the gun. It's just relaxed at your sides. And by the way, everything I'm saying just gets worse under stress. So it's not like it can get better, right? The difference is like at that same day that I'm grabbing that 10 mil, a 9 millimeter, say a 9 millimeter Glock will be somewhere around 2.7 seconds on demand. A SIG P320 will be about 2.4. A 9 millimeter 2011 or 1911 will be 1.9 to 2 seconds. And that 22 mag, it's sub 2 seconds because it doesn't move. So I'm not resetting, watching the sight lift, bringing it back down on the target. It's as fast as I can pull the trigger, right? So like, the 2011 I got in my truck, my splits will be in like the 1500s, like 0.15 between splits. And I'm going to have some start getting close to the edges of that 8-inch circle, but it'll be clean. With a 22 mag, it's like 0.12 splits, and they're all in like a 3.5-inch circle in the center, right? The limiting factor is how fast I can move the trigger back and forth, not how much the gun moves. There's nobody, you look at Jerry Mikulek, he's interesting because he's on YouTube and you can see him. There's probably nobody alive, I would guess, that can shoot a big bore handgun as fast as he can. Wonder of wonders, he learned to shoot from USPSA and 3-gun. And he does crazy things with big bore. I mean, like he shoots them well. Jerry Mikulek can't shoot a 10 millimeter like Jerry Mikulek can shoot a 9 millimeter or a 22 mag, which is why he doesn't use them in competition because you can't shoot them as well. So yeah, I mean, that's the same thing. We can talk about like 9 millimeter versus 10 millimeter. Well, yeah, I can shoot a 10 millimeter well. For most people, they would be like, when they see it shot, right? But to me, I'm like, this sucks. It recoils too much. The gun moves too much. The grip is too fat. Like everything is bad about it. Can I have my 9 mil back, please?
Yeah, I think we hammered that down pretty well.
I don't think that was 10 minutes.
No, that was 38. I will ask the listeners, if you have ever shot any bear, black bear, grizzly bear, Kodiak bear, in self-defense, please get a hold of us at podcast@shoottohunt.com. We'd love to talk to you. Now I got to tell you my own one and only bear story kill with a pistol.
Okay.
And it was just a one-off. It wasn't even stressful and it wasn't exciting.
Okay.
I was shed hunting. I had a Glock 29 and I didn't want to shoot a bear. But the bear's open. It was spring bear. It's open. It's like late April.
Mm-hmm.
Walking down this trail and go up in the only open grass on this whole fucking hillside. And I'm walking up and I'm coming up to his deadfall, and it's pretty stripped deadfall, no hardly any branches. And I look about 20 yards, 15 yards on the other side of this deadfall, there's a black bear. I'm like, all right, well, I'll just let him go because he wasn't a big bear and I didn't want to fucking shoot a bear. I was literally shed hunting. Mm-hmm. So, but I pulled my pistol out. That fucking bear walks over to the deadfall, and I was like, don't get on the deadfall, dude. So bears, I don't know what his bears love to walk on trees. He fucking gets up on the deadfall, and I got my pistol out, and now he's probably, I don't know, 7-8 feet. I said, do not walk towards me on this deadfall. The sucker turned, walked straight for me, got to about where you were, put it on his chin, pulled the trigger, and he fell over dead. It literally exited. I mean, that is shooting him in the chin and shooting him in the face.
Yeah.
Fucking, it was a 210 grain buffalo boar hard cast. Yep. Exited his fucking back of his head. He was dead like that.
Yeah.
That's my only bear story.
That's great.
But I shot him in the fucking face.
That's right.
And I didn't have to shoot more than once because you've seen me shoot. If I got to shoot that little fucking 10 millimeter more than once,
it's over.
It's pretty safe wherever I'm shooting at. So anyways, you guys anything else? That's Jim Rogers, the more respectable Rogers we had on the show today, not his son, Luke.
Yeah, that's true.
So you guys got anything else to add to that? I think we covered most of it.
Oh, it's okay. The hate will come.
What's that? Let the hate flow through you like a Star Wars.
That's right.
I loathe him. Thanks for listening.